Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Big news today. Cards. Oh, I forgot I have a magic card here. That's kind of funny. Cards have been banned in Commander. And I want to take some time to talk about the bans because I'm sure we all have lots of feelings about it, lots of thoughts. All right. Couple things I want to preface the video with. I think the first thing is just like bans are like always upsetting. You know, bans are never a good thing because when a card gets banned, someone's losing value, right? I have a Dockside, I have two Jewel Lotuses, and I have like a masterpiece Mana Crypt. I like saved a lot of money to buy a long time ago. I have like a masterpiece collection I collected a long time ago for my cEDH decks, and you know, all those cards are like gone. Just not gonna be worth anything. They're probably worth something for like sentimental value. I don't know. Cards always have some value, but you know, the fact that people might have invested, saved time, and put a lot of effort to collecting these cards, and now they can't play those cards anymore, no matter what format, always feels bad, right? And I think I'll get to this at the end of the video, what I think the what kind of like the bigger issue is, but let's talk about the cards. So that's just the first thing. It's just like, I know if you have these cards, it feels bad, and I like feel for you. I get it. And then I think the second thing that's unique to Commander is like it's impossible to talk about power level cards, stuff like that these days, or forever, because it's like Commander is amorphous. It's like casual but competitive. You can have like semi high powered, medium high power, like whatever. There's just like so many different power levels, and whenever like, you know, we bring up Docksides, there are legitimately play groups where you can resolve a Dockside and it just gives you back two treasures. Like sometimes you get a lot, sometimes you don't get, you know, anything, right? And then maybe people are playing Jewel Lotus with like, I don't know, some 6 mana do nothing commander because they like it, right? These cards are enablers, and whatever the effect that comes out of them is up to the deck designer, right? So it's hard to say like these cards need to get banned. But here's my point of view on it. I don't agree with all the bans. I only agree with 2 of them. And I actually only agree with Dockside and no, not that one. Dockside and Mana Crypt. And the reason why I think these cards should get banned, and I actually couldn't believe they banned it. Actually, so I only think that Dockside and Mana Crypt should get banned. And let me go over why I think that. And the other thing is just like, I know not everyone's gonna agree. We all have different perspectives and thoughts on this, and like, I don't expect people to agree after watching the video. This is just more for us to like kind of engage and talk about it and maybe like sort our feelings out over it, right? Because what's done is done. So back to the cards. A long time ago, I wrote this article I never posted. This article was only shared with a few people. It was shared with Sheldon, it was shared with Gavin Verhey, and then recently, not too recent, it's not my fault, with Jim and Olivia. So the RC has read this before, and essentially kind of what drove this idea I had was called Escalation theory, where I was playing like an old strategy game. And I don't know if people like watching this know what I'm talking about, but old real-time strategy games like StarCraft, Age of Empires, and stuff like that, at the end of each match, they'll give you like charts of like your power, right? Like your military power, your energy that you generated, your resource power, and then your overall power, right? That got me thinking. That kind of happens in Commander, where like throughout the course of game, like a game through time, your kind of like average power goes up, right? Which is what got me thinking on this idea of escalation. Everyone is scaling, right? Their power. If you go turn 1, Land War Elves, then turn 2, you have play a land you have 3 mana to play with, right? So now your power is like kind of up here, while someone who just went land, pass, land might be down here, right? This isn't a science. This is just kind of a concept. So the reason why escalation theory is important or interesting is like over here, this is just showing like, I guess, I forgot what I wrote here, but this is just showing that, oh, sometimes like someone might play stacks or destroy your board, and then like your average power goes down, right? Your power level goes down, and then you can build back up. And then essentially why this matters is because I think the expected play pattern of Commander overall, not cEDH, we'll talk about cEDH at the very end too, is that everyone expects this graph, right? Everyone wants to play this. Each player is going up, and eventually we hit a point where the power is so, at its apex, right? At its high point, that the game ends. And everyone has a good time because, like, everyone was able to reach that level. So what ends up happening, or the games that people dislike, are the games that break this model. So, for example, Thassa's Oracle here, classic cEDH combo, or, the kind of like classic card that everyone likes to hate on. It's like the poster child of what's broken in Commander, is that at a very early level, you just cap the game short, right? Everyone was expecting to play till over here, and someone just resolved the Thassa's Oracle in console and just ended the game, right? And that's kind of feel bad if you don't talk about it. And then, likewise over here, Coalition Victory, which is also like another poster child of like a card that actually I don't think is that powerful anymore, and easily answered and needs like a lot of steps to get through, right? The reason why Coalition Victory could be a problem, I think it should be unbanned, okay? I want to get that out there. I think that card should be unbanned. But if we follow this model, Coalition Victory should go because it follows the expected path of what players are naturally doing, and then just caps the game, right? It gives them like an upkeep, all that, right? I'm not really pushing that like this is a problematic card. This is just kind of more talking about the model. So Dockside and Mana Crypt, how does those come in? Mana Crypt kind of came right here, nice. Mana Crypt basically sets one player at a different chart, right? They're able to reach the levels of power faster than everyone else, and it's turn after turn of amplifying power, right? You turn 1 Mana Crypt, turn 3 you spend 3 mana, you spend 4 mana so far, right? Let's say you go land, let's go even more ridiculous. Land, Crypt, Kodama's Reach, right? Turn 2, you have 2 lands, Crypt, and a land in hand. So you play your land, you have 5 mana, then you play like, I don't know, some 5 mana bear, right? Let's pretend that's what you played. In this game, by turn 2, you already resolved 5 mana and 3 mana worth of effect onto your board, right? While everyone else doesn't have that. And the more you take the more you spend your mana efficiently, your chart is way above everyone else's chart, right? And that's why I think Mana Crypt is like kind of an issue, is because it puts you that much ahead versus other opponents. And I think like a counter argument to that is like, well, there's lots of other cards that can do that, right? Turn 1, land, Soul Ring. Turn 2, play land. You already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing, exact same thing, right? If you didn't play, like, if that's how you spent your mana, you were exactly the same as a Mana Crypt, right? You get turn 1, add access to 2 colorless. Turn 2, you have access to 5 mana, right? So you could even go like land, Soul Ring, Talisman, very classic cEDH opener. Then you're even better, right? We'll talk about Soul Ring in a second, but I think Mana Crypt is just like one of the more problematic cards that does that. I don't want to talk about cEDH yet because I want to talk about Commander overall. Then Dockside, everyone kind of knows why Dockside is problematic in a lot of meta games. There are many meta games I've played personally out at conventions, at the LGS, where Dockside's like very reasonable. Like I've been holding a Dockside. I generally don't play Dockside anymore, but I would be holding onto a Dockside, I play and be like, oh, it makes 3, and the next turn I play like a dumb 8 mana flyer, right? And then the flyer gets removed, and then like Dockside did nothing that game. But back to the escalation theory, you can see here in the chart that we want to play this curve, and then Dockside's like, nah. You already hit that power at a much faster turn than everyone else, and then you start developing there, right? So if you're able to cheat on a Miram, right, then next turn you play a big dragon with your treasures, your board state is at like a much stronger level than everyone else's. So ultimately, and I'd never finished the article, ultimately that's why I posted a while ago that if I had my dream, right, I would cut Dockside, Mana Crypt. I would go even harder. I would cut Chroma, Soul Ring, all of that. I don't want any free mana in this game. And the reason why I don't want any free mana in this game is because this is not including cEDH, okay? Let's just take cEDH out of the conversation at the moment. We'll talk about it later. I'll put a bookmark, so if you only care about cEDH, just jump there, alright? This for everyone else. I think the biggest issue with Commander, and everyone knows this issue, is that when you sit down at a table, you have to talk about what you're playing, right? And it's like, so annoying. It's like nice because like it's a social experience. You get to like engage with people and you get to create that experience you want together. But a lot of people just want to, you know, after work, sit down, have a beer with some strangers, and be like, I want to play this Yuriko deck I built, or like I want to play this like whatever Rashmi and what Ragavan deck that I upgraded for my precons, and not talk about it, right? I just want to play a game. That's what playing Magic is like. You know, that's what's fun about Magic. You get to go to FNM, meet a bunch of people with your deck, play. You don't have to talk about it, right? The reason why we talk about anything, aside from like, you know, silver border cards or other experiences, is the power isn't like a big issue. If you bring like a really low power deck, like you know, mono green all elves with no Crater Hoof, I don't know, like mono green all elves of one artist, or mono green all elves of from pre-modern, I don't know, like that kind of theme deck against like Najila but all warriors, and it happens out smothering Tyrristic Study and like a lot of the good cards, that's a huge power imbalance, right? This player is going to be like doing way better. So my theory, this is when I was like getting interviewed to be on the RC, is that if I had my way, what I would do is I would snip the top of power, right? And that doesn't mean banning Force of Will. That does not mean banning like Fierce Guardianship. You know, like those cards at the cEDH top level of the game don't need to get banned. What needs to get banned is the mana supporting that top end, right? So if we chop the top end of the high power casual down here, and then we have WotC start printing like, you know, better precons and kind of like entry level products to raise the bar over here, then what ends up happening is that disparity in power is not as big of a deal anymore. So you can go to LGS, someone goes, I'm playing high power, your entry level products are already touching that high power because they can't mana crypt and like do dumb things when you don't have that, right? Like that was my dream. And I think we're actually getting closer there because the precon products are like getting really good. And if we cut Dockside Mana Crypt, you know, as a starter, and I don't think we should cut any more, I think that's actually fine. I think that will have enough of an impact to put us closer where you can have a game, right? Like we can just sit down, just jam, and not have that conversation, right? Not need to have it. You should still have it just in case, you know, like if I play a creature deck and you play a nothing but Wrath of Gods deck, I think, you know, won't be fun. But whatever. Like from a power perspective, that's why I think those cards should get banned, and they did. So curious to see like how that works out. And if you disagree, and totally you can disagree, let me know in the comments, right? It's dialogue, conversation. I'm on the CAG. I'm here to hear you out and like provide that feedback to the RC whenever they need it. So if you talk to me about this stuff, it's really valuable for me and them, right? So that's one. I'll put that out there. So let's go to the last two cards, Jewel Lotus and Nadu. I actually don't agree with these bans, and I don't know if we want to go over like my politics, my perspective of Commander bans. I think Golos should have sticked. I like Golos. I didn't think Golos was like ban worthy, but whatever. Jewel Lotus. Let's start with that one. I don't know if people reading this will know all the explanations, but Jewel Lotus gives you 5 mana on turn 2, and it does it without even needing a good hand. And you restrict it. Even though you're restricted by color, you can basically cheat in a big commander much faster than everyone else, you know, and that's an issue, right? It's a Black Lotus. It's a Black Lotus for the most consistent central card of your deck, right? You always are able to crack this Black Lotus to do something with it, unless if your commander costs like 2, right? So if we look back at Escalation theory, theoretically you can go turn 2, cheat in a Volja, right? The classic, like, I'm gonna look up Volja so we know what that looks like. Volja, is that how you spell it? No, whatever. Okay, let's go to sorry for the interruption. This guy, Volja. Oh, I added an extra L. Okay, so if you're able to cheat in a Volja on turn 2, right? Turn 1 Land or else turn 2 Volja, you're pretty ahead, right? Compared to everyone else who didn't have Jewel Lotus. And the justification, one of the justifications for this card, aside from like the fact that you're ahead, which is aligned with the idea of trying to remove some of the cards that create that disparity in the board state, is a lot of new commanders at that higher kind of like mana value have ward, right? Or other effects that make it hard to remove. So Voja's like this, Tivit's like this, Sauron is like this. Sauron needs you to like sacrifice a creature or something. I don't remember. But like a lot of these commanders have built-in protection because it's a real feel bad when you put all your mana down for a big mana, like for a big commander, and someone's like Swords to Plowshares, right? Your whole deck is built around this like 6-drop or whatever, and someone just invalidates it by 1 mana or 2, right, or whatever. So that's why it's built-in protection, and the idea that we don't, it's an issue when that commander comes out too fast because of a Black Lotus. I buy that, right? I buy that thought. Why I disagree with kind of like the Jeweled Lotus is that I have a Razia deck. And if you don't know what Razia is like a real do nothing like commander. I just like, it's my favorite like legend of all time. You know, sorry Jeggy. I mean like number 2. Let's say Jeggy's number 1, and then like Razia is number 2 on the all time list. Like let's scroll let's see how far down we need to get on EDH rec before you even see Razia. Right? Razia, did I miss it? It is really low. Kalemni is higher than Razia. I like Kalemni a lot. Where is Razia? Okay, we're down to like the weird partner decks. All right, I think you get the point that no one plays Razia. Oh, maybe I don't see her down here, so you know she's a little higher. But Razia is my favorite like Ravnica character, like one of my favorite characters ever. When I like started playing Magic, I opened a Razia and I was like, yo, this four-winged angel is dope, right? She's a leader of my favorite guild, Boros, and she's just cool. Is she not even on this? Is that how low this is? Okay, I have to like look it up. Razia, Boros, Archangel. And Razia at the time, 65 decks, 0.0001%. All right, so we're talking like no one places. Razia, my deck is like all Boros cards from all Ravnica. Its power level is not high. Okay, it's not that good, but I want to be able to play as commander, and Jeweled Lotus lets me play it, right? Jeweled Lotus lets me resolve Razia much faster in a deck that doesn't really have as much access to ramp, right? Boros, your only ramp sources are like white cards like Oresco's Explorer, maybe Smothering Tithe, and then mostly rocks, right? It's not a green deck. So the fact that I'm able to have a Jeweled Lotus I can mulligan for to play a Razia is huge. I really need that. And there's probably lots of other commanders at a higher mana value from like they're older that people have an attachment to or want to play that really need Jeweled Lotus to do its thing, right? So I don't know if they want to print Jeweler Lotus where it's like only works if your commander costs 6 or whatever. I don't know. But my point is just like, if we're going to sit down and talk a little bit about the game, right? Or have an expectation of like everyone should be able to play whatever. And if you play Volja and I play Razia, like I will probably just tell you, you know, I will probably just say like, you know, my deck kind of sucks. Could you take it a little easy? You know, like I just don't necessarily agree at the moment that Jeweled Lotus was like a need, like a card that needed to be banned because of ward commanders and other high mana value commanders. I think that is one part we can actually solve by talking about it, right? And there are a lot of decks for creativity, like creativity's sake, not the spell, but like actual, you know, the motif or whatever idea that needed Jeweled Lotus to work. So that's why I'm like not a big fan of that ban, but we'll see how that shakes up. You know, I don't play Razia that often. I just like to own it, but I don't know. And then lastly, the Nadu ban. The Nadu ban's interesting. So I actually feel really bad about the Nadu ban because someone DM'd me when Nadu got banned in Modern, or like people are talking about, like it's clearly getting banned. Someone DM'd me saying, do you think Nadu's getting banned in Commander? Because they're building a cEDH deck and they're foiling it out, right? A lot of people do this, all right? And my answer was like, I'm not on the RC. I can't tell you what they're gonna do, right? From my the historic kind of perspective of what they've done or how they've acted, I don't think Nadu's getting banned, right? Because if Thoracle Console isn't getting banned, if Underworld Breach isn't getting banned, then why would you ban Nadu, right? If with Node, I don't know, like there's plenty other commanders who are like very, okay, Leovold got banned, so that makes sense. But like, there's plenty other kind of cEDH cards, like clearly cEDH cards that don't get banned because they get self-selected out, right? Like people know not to play certain cEDH things in casual, like Yuriko, right? Because there's no way you can build Yuriko nice, right? Unless your playgroups high power or whatever, right? Generally speaking, those cards kind of like make its way to the space that it needs to, right? And I think Nadu is definitely that case. Nadu, I assume, won't really get played in the casual space. And I was asking a lot of people like, oh, have you seen a Nadu? Have you played Nadu? What do you think about Nadu, right? And everyone at a convention, at an LGS level, every like person who doesn't know who I am, they answered just like, I don't. If they play Nadu and it's like cEDH, I just won't play with them again, right? Or like, no, not really. I don't see. I know it's a cEDH card, or whatever. So Nadu belong in the space of like it is a self. It is not a problem in Commander. It is a problem, I believe, over here in the explanation, is that the play pattern is just like not very nice. Not, I'll be more specific because the wording really matters here. Here, the play pattern is that it takes long, non-deterministic sequences that can't be shortcut and might eventually fizzle out, right? So even in like a Simic shell, if you have a lightning greaves, every single turn you have to like you get to greaves your elf Nadu, not infinite, right? This is playing fairly. You still have to resolve 6 triggers, right? And then you probably play Screw Swarm, right? So this to me sounds a lot closer to a Paradox engine ban, or like Prophet of Crucifix ban, right? These cards added time and made the game itself longer, right? And much more difficult to play. So I get that. I get that Nadu is like conducive to that play pattern. I don't necessarily agree Nadu should have got banned, because it just wasn't a card that gets played there, right? Like Prophet Crucifix needed to get banned because every Commander player playing Simic back in the day, if you played back then, played Prophet of Crucifix. Everyone cloned it, everyone copied it, and it made it a nightmare, right? Because everyone's untapping, everyone has flash, right? So turns were really difficult, and like there were often times people forgot whose turn it was. I played a lot at the LGS back then. That actually happened. And Paradox Engine, same thing. Like people, Paradox colorless artifact, everyone playing dorks are just like have a lot of artifacts. Like every time you play a spell, untap it. So whenever someone's interacting, it creates like these triggers. You have to untap everything. It became really difficult to track the board state, right? Those cards, 100% understand. Should have got banned. Agree with it. Nadu, as I said, self-selected issue, right? And I think like at some point, if you play Nadu casually and you kind of like, here's another thing. I played Nadu for Modern, right? And I've played a lot of Nadu and practiced a lot of Nadu for the play pattern. It's not fun. No one likes doing it, right? Like, it's kind of cool the first time you do it, but then like you need a specific way of like, okay, well, this pile represents 0 activations, this pile represents 1 activation, this pile represents 2 activations, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the creature from here, then here, and resolve the Nadu trigger. Like, it's not fun. No one likes doing that, right? Like dedicated Nadu pilots don't find that fun, right? It's kind of fun, trying to flip a thing, but like it is such a slog. So like I think that's Nadu will self-select it will not be an issue because it's only a cEDH card, and for casuals will quickly realize, oh, this card sucks to play with. And then, like other people might be like, yo, that game kind of sucked. Could you like not play that? Nadu's very obvious why you wouldn't do that, because you are taking all the time and no one else is doing anything, right? This is a classic in like a lot of other decks too, like Yidris and stuff like that in a casual level. Once you like play a couple times, you realize, oh, me storming off and no one's doing anything actually isn't that fun, right? So that's why I don't really necessarily agree with the Nadu ban. So from a Commander perspective, that's like kind of my thoughts on the cards that got banned. I agree with Dockside and Mana Crypt for kind of like power reasons, to make it easier for untrusted play. That's the word for like just playing with strangers. And then for Jeweled Lotus and Nadu, don't super agree with it, but I don't super care. So, feel free to leave your feedback here. So now we get to the cEDH part of this video. All right, cEDH. These cards are really interesting. Most importantly, it's I'll talk about Mana Crypt, then I'll talk about Dockside, then I'll talk about Jeweled Lotus. I don't have that much to talk about Nadu. So Mana Crypt is important, and because Mana Crypt, because we mulligan very aggressively, right? Actually, what I'm gonna do, stop here. All right, so now we get to the cEDH part of the video. Hopefully you jumped here if you were into cEDH. I'll go through each of these cards. The first thing is Mana Crypt. The impact of Mana Crypt to cEDH is actually quite massive, because cEDH, the play pattern is that you mulligan extremely aggressively, right? So if you, a hand that you really want is like land, crypt, Rhystic Study, land, crypt, talisman, right? Being able to take 3 mana's worth of effect is very important and very easy to do in this format. And also, you can go land, then turn to land, crypt, the One Ring, right? So the Mana Crypt is like pretty important to setting up all those really powerful starts that you mulligan aggressively to. So from like a meta standpoint, a turn 1, turn 2 Rhystic Study is like, I would say significantly harder to establish. Not like impossible, because you can still go land, Soul Ring, then turn to whatever, or like land, Chromox, Soul Ring, Rhystic Study. Like there's still many combinations that can establish it, but losing Mana Crypt as one of the ranges of your opening hands to do that is like quite impactful. I think this also impacts things like Smothering Tithe. I think Smothering Tithe has been like a very mediocre, like has been in between playable and not playable because of the 4 mana cost, and Mana Crypt was like one of the big ways you could play Smothering Tithe easily, because you can use Mana Crypt to like fund the 2 colorless and leave like a colorless or 2 behind to protect it with a Swan Song or something. So I think the takeaway from here is that some of those types of permanents like Smothering Tithe and like Rhystic Study is just harder to resolve, right? Rhystic Study you keep forever, that makes sense. Smothering Tithe, I don't know, we'll see. I think whenever you play Smothering Tithe, you should play Mana Vault, but whatever. The really important part about losing Mana Crypt is, and Dockside together, and they're tied to the same thing basically, is that your main phase Nas is now significantly harder, because, and also ties a little bit to the play pattern of like Rhystic Study, Mystic Remora, is that when you're doing ad Nas, right? Anyone who plays Nas a lot will know this. It's so important to flip over mana, and losing one of the best 0-drop kind of like rituals, the Mana Crypt, is huge. And especially losing Dockside Extortionist, which fixes your colors to easily play Thoracle Console or whatever else you need, is massive, right? The treasures from Dockside is what makes Dockside extremely powerful, aside from like the treasures itself, like getting more mana. Because there's plenty of rituals. You can Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual. You can Metamorphosis and Ritual, but like there's plenty of rituals in the format. You can Infernal Plunge, Calling the Weak, plenty of things, right? But being able to shift your colors because of the treasure from Dockside is pretty crucial, I think. So I think losing both of those just makes Nas decks like a little worse. For the main phase Nas, you can still like end step Nas, you can still do many things. I presume like the deck's still gonna be pretty fast. You go land, Soul Ring, Talisman, Crypt, not Crypt, Band, Opal, Mox, Amber, Chromox, plenty of ways to make mana, but losing 2 of those kind of key pieces is like pretty important. Another thing about Dockside Extortion is a common thing you do from Nas is like, even if you got no free mana, you can exile Simian Spirit Guide, Rite of Flame into a Dockside and fix everything and you're good to game, right? I think people who play Nas will just recognize losing Extortionist and Mana Crypt is quite huge. For everyone else, the Jewel Lotus also impacts a lot of things. Like I know Winota's bad. Winota's dead, right? Like I'm sure there are people who will defend it. I just think you just can't justify playing Winota without Jewel Lotus and Mana Crypt, right? It'll take you forever to get to Winota. And I'm starting to trying to think about like what other decks that this might impact. Like Kinnan, like sort of. Kinnan doesn't really care because you still make not infinite, like lots of mana with your turn 1 dorks and like your talismans and stuff like that, right? So losing Mana Crypt kind of sucks, but it's just like whatever. I was about to say Nadu, but that's banned now. The other deck that gets hit pretty hard is Sisay. So I think Sisay is only good because one of the best Dockside Extortionist combo decks, right? I've played against Sisay a lot, brewed Sisay a lot, and from what I'm seeing, the only reason why Sisay wins is because it's one of the best decks that just wins with Dockside, right? If your Dockside's big enough, you find the right thing under protection and then like combo off, right? So losing Dockside Extortionist I think is quite huge. I don't know how much will impact the deck. I think enough. I think actually be pretty huge, but I guess we'll see how it shakes up. Najeela losing Mana Crypt's Jewel Lotus denies some of their turn 1 Najeela, but I don't know how much that matters. I guess not being able to fierce guardianship like immediately might matter. Having it impact your attack, like your combat step might matter. But yeah, I don't really know if that matters that much. Am I missing anything else? Oh, of course, blue farm. Blue farm, I think losing Jewel Lotus kind of important because like I think, we know Chrom's really powerful and being able to go land Jewel Lotus, like being able to cheat out Chrom early, I think is pretty crucial as like a fallback plan or a plan to like grind to the game. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. I assume clones won't be as important anymore because a lot of the ways to cheat big creatures in are just gone, or like big commanders in is like are gone, and also the only reason why you really play clones was to copy a Dockside. So now that Dockside's gone, I don't know like how many clones we're still gonna play, but I think Mockingbird is like always good, so like that's fine. Yeah, I think overall the cEDH meta will shift quite a bit. But the thing I would say is like Rograk stocks are like up. I would just keep playing Rograk because you compared to everyone else still have Mox Amber, or Mox Ruby, right? So the fact that you're still able to generate more mana than everyone else, and the game cares about mana and the investment of mana and all that stuff, in time, just makes Rogsai probably like Rogsai or other Rog decks like really really powerful still. So that's what I would kind of like pivot to. I mean, I've always kind of wanted to play more. Like I've always played Rograk decks lately. Like Rograk Thrasios. I don't even care that Mana Crypt and like Dockside is gone. Well, a little bit. It did some Dockside loops, but like we can win many other ways. So I don't super care about that. For Nadu and cEDH, I honestly haven't like played that often to know. I saw Nadu came up a lot in like events. Losing Nadu is like probably a good thing because I heard that people really don't like playing against Nadu because of specifically the reason why it's banned. So I guess that's good. So that's a video for today. I just want to talk about it because I know like everyone's a lot of thoughts and kind of like want to talk to someone about it or engage about it, and it's hard to talk about this stuff. There's lots of thoughts, lots of complicated moving pieces, and as someone who's on the CAG, as someone who's played a lot of cEDH, theory crafted a lot of cEDH, makes a lot of casual commander decks, just kind of like played the gamut, I figured I could share some perspective. But feel free to leave your thoughts below, have a good discussion. You can join my Discord too. People are talking about it. Just remember, when you're talking to other people about the bans today, just like be respectful, okay? Like we're all trying to enjoy this game together, and even if you disagree, just try to be respectful to your other players. Okay, thanks for watching. It's good to see you all again. Bye bye.